Mugdha madam, you are joined from the office.
Yeah.
So, what is the reporting time to the office?
Yeah, more or less.
Yes, so we are live and we have started. Gandhi sir, we are live.
Okay, we can start. Chitra madam.
Okay, a very good morning, and it's my privilege to introduce a young dynamic speaker for the session to begin. So, Dr. Mugdha Lele. Dr. Mugdha Potnis Lele, MSc PhD, and she is currently head Social Innovations at Venture Center, Pune. She has done PhD from School of Health Sciences, University of Pune, and has teaching and research experience in a state government medical university. At Venture Center, she is responsible for driving the social innovation activities and provides technical mentoring for startups at Venture Center. She has been a fellow of Chivning Rolls-Royce Science Innovation Policy and Leadership Program CRISP at said Business School, University of Oxford, UK in 2016. In 2018, she has also been part of the Aritra Accelerator Program for Leadership in Social Sector at IIM Bangalore with Ficus Solutions and Dr. Reddy's Foundation. She served as the nominee director on the boards of Synthera Biomedical Private Limited, which is a dental biomaterials startup, and Pragmatic Healthcare Solutions Private Limited, which is a medical diagnostic startup. So it's a fantastic resume, and we really are fortunate, madam, to have you as the speaker. Now the session is all open for you, and you can start, please.
Thank you for inviting me. Let me start sharing my screen. My screen is visible, right?
Yes.
Okay, and it's moving ahead also?
Just show, yes, it is.
So today's topic is on social innovations and entrepreneurship, and the focus is science tech startups. My colleague Dr. Smita Kale must have spoken to you yesterday about what is entrepreneurship and a little bit about Venture Center also. So there could be some repetition, but we will keep the focus on social innovations and entrepreneurship. So this is how Venture Center looks, and most welcome to all of you to come and visit us sometime. We are on the NCL Innovation Park campus, and NCL is our host institute. However, we are registered as a Section 8 not-for-profit company, and we are almost now about to complete 15 years of our incorporation. Several other agencies also support Venture Center via their different funding programs and the startup programs. So these are the different funding agencies. In addition to that, we also work extensively with corporates, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the CSR kind of funding, which is relevant for social enterprises. So that will come later on. So Dr. Smita must have shown this entire journey from identifying the problem, developing the solution, developing the technology idea, doing the proof of concept, the prototype or the demonstration, then getting the approvals, commercial production, and the product is in use, which is the entire innovation marathon. So basically it's not a sprint, it's a long journey, and some of the science tech products to get into market can take as many as 5 to 7 years also. And all of you being from the pharma background, you know how long it takes even for a simple drug molecule to get developed. So after the drug molecule is developed, then this entire journey starts till the drug is actually in the market. So basically, when we define entrepreneurship, we define it as a vehicle for delivering these innovations in a very sustainable and scalable manner. So the innovations we start with inventions and then we enter the innovation phase where it actually goes into the market as a product or a service, but it has to be delivered in such a way that it remains sustainable and it is also scalable. It is not something that is just working in the lab and does not work in when actually it gets delivered to the customer. So in every success story, this is a famous statement by Peter Drucker. He says that in every success story, you will find someone who has made a courageous decision, and that is your entrepreneur. So an entrepreneur has to make some leaps, some very courageous decisions to enter this journey. Then only he or she will become successful. And innovation is a specific instrument of entrepreneurship, the act that endows on resources with a new capacity to create wealth. That is another statement which Peter Drucker has given us. So now let us move on to defining what is social entrepreneurship. And when we talk about social entrepreneurship, we at Venture Center, we always consider Amul as our role model because it is a perfect example of enterprise in the social sector that somehow is kind of a benchmark. We have now comparable examples, but this is one of the earliest role models, earliest benchmarks in the domain of social entrepreneurship. So all of you must be aware about Dr. Verghese Kurian and his famous book, I Too Had a Dream, where he has described his journey with Amul. So how Amul happened, where he was working with Tribhuvan Das and Kaira's dairy farms, and then how he saw that when you work merely for your own profit, the pleasure is transitory. But if you start working for others, so that is the social angle which gives more value to this entrepreneurship, and that is what defines social entrepreneurship. So when you start working for others, there is much more deeper sense of fulfillment, and if all goes well, so the things that should go well are same as what happens in entrepreneurship, only this angle is slightly different when you have a social aspect related to it. So if all the things are handled well, then of course the money is also there. The money has to be there. Otherwise, even social entrepreneurship cannot survive. So that is what it's a very lovely book and by Verghese Kurian, as has been told by Gauri Salvi. So highly recommended to go through this book if you want to know much more in detail about social entrepreneurship. So let us talk a little bit about the Amul model. So basically, they had these three pillars around which they gradually grew their business: sustainability, scalability, and inclusiveness. So what do you mean by sustainability? Inflows and outflows. So your inflows have to be much more than the outflows. That is the basic of any entrepreneurship, and that is true for even social entrepreneurship. It is not that social entrepreneurship is charity. It is not at all charity. It has to be sustainable. Scalable, when we talk about, it reaches out to many more beneficiaries. So here the scale of reach is much more than the science tech or the routine kind of, or the commonly known entrepreneurship that all of us are aware about. So here the scale of reach, the impact to the community, to the society is much, much large via your product or the service, and it has a model to fuel the expansion. So how do you scale up your business? There is a model, there are several models in fact which each social and entrepreneur has to try out at different points of time. And the last but very important aspect of social entrepreneurship is the inclusiveness. So this generally doesn't part form of the science tech entrepreneurship, the other businesses which we talk in science and technology. But in social entrepreneurship, this is a key aspect where inclusivity or inclusiveness is very, very important. So in terms of beneficiaries of the enterprises, the users, the customers, the producers, employees, so all stakeholders basically have to be involved in that entire enterprise in different ways. So it is a win-win situation for all of us. That is what broadly we can define social entrepreneurship as. So remember important three pillars: sustainability, scalability, and very importantly, inclusiveness. So on the right side of the panel, there are few figures. This is a little dated information, but that is how Amul has become sustainable over the years since its existence. So I've also given few references at the bottom of the slide. Feel free to go through those references to understand how Amul actually follows all these three aspects of social entrepreneurship and has become successful: sustainability, scalability, and inclusiveness. Now, I talked about Amul, but of course, there are several role models now in the social enterprise domain, starting with Amul, of course. So, other social enterprises examples include the famous Oro Labs. So, I don't know whether you are aware about Oro Labs, but they are in Madurai. The main base is in Madurai, and basically they develop these products for ophthalmology, so different kinds of lenses. So it's a highly technical, highly science and tech based kind of idea, and they have a very skilled team now. It's a huge team. It's worth visiting their setup in Madurai, and if you get a chance, do visit them physically. They have few training programs also about how actually Oro Labs started and how it scaled up. So it's a real role model, actual existing role model now. Details are of course available on their website. So they have developed now different kinds of lenses as well as sutures also, specialized sutures for ophthalmic operations. And of course they are teamed up with the what is this? I forgot their name. The Netralaya in Madurai. So they work extensively with them, and they have in fact partnered with them, and they have different hospitals chains with which they have partnered. So this is one successful example. Narayana Health, I think this is quite famous nowadays, the Narayana Rudayalaya example. So they are also a very good example of social enterprise. Selco Enterprises, they are in the energy sector. So I'm sure you must have heard about Selco and Harish, who is heading Selco. So they are one more successful example outside of the healthcare domain. Samagra is one more example. They are in the sanitation domain. So, in fact, they are a Pune-based enterprise, and you would be very happy to interact with them. The CEO of Samagra is very dynamic personality, and more details are available on their website, samagra.co. So, they basically work. They have a service model for maintaining the toilets in public places. So, they give a one-stop solution for the washrooms and the toilets in public spaces, and they've teamed up with several big organizations to provide this ecosystem, the sanitation related ecosystem, to these organizations and even with governments to give this solutions. So Samagra is one more example. Akshay Patra is also very famous now, and I'm sure you must have heard about it. So they are into the food domain, where they provide meals, the midday meals, to several thousands and lakhs of children all across the country. They have pan-India existence now, and through their different channels and distributors, they have a very well set what you can say process for right from procuring the raw materials, for preparing the food items, the different standard menus, and they also have region specific menus, which is another specialty, and nutritious meals is another USP of Akshay Patra, and then delivering it in a very short time. So there's a beautiful video also available on their website. If you get a chance, please do see that video. It is quite inspiring to hear the story of Akshay Patra. And then right here in Venture Center, we have one more example. I'm going to share many more examples of social enterprises from the Venture Center ecosystem also. But one which stands out clearly is our Nobel Exchange. And why they stand out, because they are handling the organic waste organic waste for Pune Municipal Corporation. So they have tied up with the government, with the Pune Corporation, and they handle almost 300 tons of waste, the organic waste, daily, day in, day out, and convert it into several valuable products, including methane gas, which is their revenue generation model. So they sell that methane gas to industry, and that is what supports their operations. And of course, they charge the government for the solution that they provide, that any social enterprise also has to keep in mind. But yes, they have this beautiful model. Even their the location is in Talegaon, so it's not very far from Pune. It is just hardly half an hour to 45 minutes from Pune. So do visit their location also. They have a novel technology which they are using to convert the organic waste into valuable products. So manure is one, different types of fertilizers. They also have this wet fertilizer kind of concept, and of course methane gases, the key revenue generation thing in their entire model. So these were few key examples of social enterprises. So then more or less we will feel, oh, so everything seems to be fitting under social enterprises, but we do have examples which do not definitely fit the social enterprise definition. So the other end of the spectrum, I would say, with no or negative social impact. So this definitely will not fit into the social enterprise definition. So such enterprises which build on people's vulnerabilities, weaknesses, addictions, they will straight away not fit in this definition. So of course, as clear as cigarette companies, alcohol companies, luxury car companies. So a car company which is a necessity, which solves a problem, yes, it will have some kind of social angle to it. But a luxury car company probably will not fit into this definition. And the video gaming kind of examples, right? The Pokemon and all, where it starts becoming an addiction. So these are the other end of the spectrum, which we say will definitely not fit into the social enterprise definition. But anything in between this, in more or less varying degrees, will be a social enterprise. More the social impact, more the inclusiveness, better the scalability, better the sustainability, yes, all those will qualify as a social enterprise. So as a definition, there's not a very hard and fast definition for social enterprises, but we have certain pointers to look at when we say, when we want to talk about what is social enterprise and what is social innovations. So let us summarize some key features of social enterprises. They are quite similar to other entrepreneurial ventures. So like other entrepreneurial ventures, the entrepreneur is seized with an opportunity. He or she is charged with, yes, this is the best solution. This is what I want to develop as a product or the service. Sometimes it could be a long shot, like the solution is not immediately in the spectrum, visible in the spectrum right away there, or also even the impact is not seen. So what will happen if this product comes in to operation is not very clear. So it could be a very long shot also. So that happens both for the science tech enterprises as well as the science tech based social enterprises also. Opportunity is larger than resources at hand, where the entrepreneur arranges resources. So resourcing is very important. Also raises investment. So there are several things which any entrepreneur does, which a social entrepreneur also has to keep in mind. Sustainability is also the common feature between science tech entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship, where that is the bottom line, that is essential for any business. It has to be sustainable. So yesterday, Dr. Smita must have also emphasized on this point that any business you start, it has to be sustainable. Otherwise, it won't survive. And it has to be scalable also. So you start small, but you have a bigger vision in mind, where you look at what scale I want to reach. And when you talk about scale, in addition, to the science tech and entrepreneurship, the social enterprise also has to keep in mind the impact. What is the mission? What is the social or environmental and other kinds of impacts? So there are multiple bottom lines here. So in science tech entrepreneurship, one basic bottom line is sustainability. However, in social enterprise, there could be multiple bottom lines. So that is the key difference between entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship, where other bottom lines will include what is the mission. So there is a social mission, there is a social impact that is in mind. It could be social, environmental, economic. There are so many impacts which you can think about, but that is the bottom line in social enterprise. And another important point is leveraging goodwill. So I have not spoken about it up till now. Generally, science tech enterprises do not leverage the goodwill for resourcing purposes. But if you approach any important expert or mentor, and if they are convinced about the social impact of your idea, then in goodwill, in good faith, they might offer you some of the resources in kind. Okay, so this is very, very key, and this does happen. Several of the experts, mentors, or even there are a lot of charities who would want to support such kind of ideas. So you do get goodwill kind of resourcing. The CSR is a very good example of this goodwill, where corporate social responsibility, where the industries now have to share 2% of their profit to for social impact or for socially relevant work, and social enterprises do fall in this category, and we have several examples where such ideas have been funded in terms of goodwill, although they are not money churning machines for these investors. So from investment point of view also, there are something which are called as impact investors, and they do fund such enterprises in goodwill with the intention that they are creating social impact through these enterprises. So goodwill and leveraging goodwill as a resource is very, very important feature of social enterprise. In addition to this, there are few other non-essential features. They may or may not be there. So frugality, so jugaad kind of things, or like in minimum resources, doing maximum good or maximum benefit or output. And of course, inclusiveness, as I have already mentioned earlier. Now, let us talk about the important pillar, sustainability. What do you mean by sustainability? Basically, the expenses have to be met. So whatever expenses as an enterprise you're making to build the product or the service. So it could be manpower expenses, it could be the tech development expenses, it could be routine running of the the office. Okay, as simple as that. Even that, those have to be met. Mechanism to handle cash flow problems, they do exist. So you have to manage the inflows and outflows in a very, very balanced way. Okay, and growth also has to be kept in mind. So sustainable does not mean you sustain at the same level, but you also move to the next level. So the growth is very, very important. Now, there are several business models for sustainability. Several are known. You could be one who could be experimenting with a novel model and see if it is successful or not. So as a social entrepreneur, you have to be very, very creative. You have to think out of the box much more than any kind of science tech or any kind of entrepreneur. So in social entrepreneurship, business model innovation is very important, and the social entrepreneur has to think out of the box to make things work in very, very difficult situations where the resources could be very less, and the impact, because the impact is more, you have to actually make it happen, right? So the business model has to be very innovative. Profits or surpluses, if you happen to make, they are the simplest and cleanest routes to sustainability and growth. So this is straightforward. You make profit, you make surpluses, and you are sustainable, right? So that's a straightforward situation. But of course, other ways also exist. Okay. Now, it inspires considerable goodwill in society also. In terms of sustainability, you can keep this in mind. If you are working on a social enterprise, it does inspire it does inspire a lot of goodwill in the society, and it can thus enlist the support of, say, government, because there are special grants for social enterprises. We are going to talk a little bit about that also. I've also spoken about charity. So a lot of charitable organizations are also key on giving part of their resources to such kind of enterprises which are doing socially relevant work and which are also targeting sustainability. So yes, they get into the list of charitable organizations. In terms of employees, so there are a lot of people who can come on board as your employees just because your and their vision matches. So they are also charged with this intention of doing social good, in addition to, of course, getting paid for it. But they are willing to get a lower cut. They work at a lower level because they are working for a social good. So even sometimes you can enlist good employees or talented, skillful employees just because you are a social enterprise. From customer point of view also, because the particular product is, say, environmentally friendly. Okay, of course, it has to be little comparable to the other existing products. It may not be, it should not be way exorbitant, way too expensive than the other alternatives. But if it is slightly above in terms of money, as compared to the other alternatives, even customers are willing sometimes to go that extra mile to pay more to make it to do the environmental good. So even you can enlist customers here. Same goes with suppliers also. So if there is a supplier who is supplying the same material to some entrepreneur and to a social entrepreneur for a social good, they may want to give it to you for a cheaper kind of, they may give a cut to you, a discount to you, because you are doing a socially relevant or socially good product, right? So there is a possibility. Only thing is you have to reach out to them in a way where they do get convinced. So same goes for customers and suppliers also, as well as employees also. So representation of your the social impact that your product or service is going to generate has to be done continuously. And then, as I was talking about investors, there are a special category of investors which are called as social investors or impact investors. Okay, so they are looking at impact as one of their investment verticals, rather than just making money. Making money is, yes, as an investor, they have to make money, but they may be willing to make less amount of money as compared to any other enterprise where they might have invested. But that impact is very important. The impact that your product or service is going to generate, that has to be clearly brought out to that impact investor, and he or she then may be willing to invest in your social enterprise. Another point is social enterprises have to be sustainable initiative like any other commercial enterprise, which we have already spoken about earlier. Basics are the same, as I've already told you, with social enterprises and with any commercial science tech based enterprises. Key difference is how you arrange the resources, and there I have already told you goodwill could come handy where you are arranging resources. So what constitutes social enterprise could be contextual, as we have seen some examples of social enterprises at one end, and the other end of the spectrum is those enterprises which are not doing good or are rather harming the stakeholders. Okay, so even those enterprises exist, and then the social enterprise, the context lies in between this entire spectrum. It can change with locations, times, and specifics also in certain societies. So this is a very, very fluid definition of what is a social enterprise, but you have to see it in the right context and then define whether it is if you can consider this as a social enterprise or not as a social enterprise. So few more examples, broadly speaking, are company addressing society's most pressing problems. So simple problems like our health, water, food, energy, these are the well-known problems where there is an element of compassion, such as this company is delivering clean drinking water in rural areas. So otherwise delivering clean drinking water, but doing a special effort to deliver it in rural areas, right? So that is where the social angle can come up. Company building local distributed clean energy solutions in rural India. So such kind of examples, if they are for a vulnerable or the needy population, then the social angle comes up very, very strongly. If there's a company which is addressing needs of disabled or the elderly, so I'm also going to talk about one particular fellowship which was around developing solutions for the elderly, right? So that's a vulnerable population, and you have a for-profit company building solutions for elderly, that again falls in the social enterprise category, although it is a for-profit enterprise. Why? Because their model is for-profit, but they are doing social good, and then probably they're giving the products or the services at a comparable level to existing solutions, or little bit lesser kind of affordable kind of rates. So yes, such kind of companies can be examples of social enterprises. Or there could be companies which are addressing the United Nations Millennium Development Goals, or now they're called as the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, by offering affordable solutions in the poorest regions of the world. So you could work in the vulnerable poor populations, deliver solutions to those kind of societies. Then yes, these could be examples of social enterprises. Financial statements wise, we are not going to go into too many details. So this is as a standard how typical for-profit and not-for-profit companies look. But the points which are highlighted in red are important from the social enterprise point of view. So distribution to shareholders, investments, that is typical for profit. But then these are points which are important from social enterprise point of view. Or in the not-for-profit organization, charitable grant project funding or donations, income from corpus and endowments, charitable grant project expenses and donations, or endowment funds or the corpus are the deficits covered using the endowment funds and corpuses. So the financial statements, these are the points in red are key for the social enterprise. Now let us talk about the second pillar, which is scalability. So basically scalability is the engine and can operate at much larger scale. Okay, so remember that that is the key part of any enterprise, which is scalability. So scalability could be in terms of volume. So say you're producing something in say 10 liters, you scale up to 1,000 liters. You go to a new geography, you're doing currently in Maharashtra, then you go pan-India, then you go into global markets, right? Or expansion in market sectors, which are customer categories. So probably you have products which are tuned to the pediatric category, then you also expand to the adult category and probably also to the elderly category. Or then expansion in different industry sectors. So healthcare industry is one, or then the similar kind of platform you want to move into the agriculture industry, right? So you also are expanding into different industries from applications point of view. Now, what are the usual bottlenecks in scalability? So the entrepreneur himself or herself. So if you are the entrepreneur, you yourself could be the bottleneck because you're the only person doing everything. So how to take care of that? Of course, you have to have a team in place. Okay, the specialized manpower, which is listed in the resources below. So if there's a solution for any kind of bottleneck, remember that. So other bottlenecks will include raw materials, infrastructure, manpower, specialized equipment, distribution channels, right? So there are ways and means to take care of this or address this bottlenecks. But the first important point is you should be aware about these bottlenecks, and that too well in advance, so that you can start planning for scalability as you're expanding or as you're doing your entrepreneurial journey. And then niche offerings also could be a bottleneck, or niche market. So like if your product is so specialized that you have to have those kind of markets only, your end users are very particular, then that could be a bottleneck. Or you're offering only one product or max at the max 2 products, again that could be a bottleneck. So you should have a portfolio of products eventually. I'm not saying start with a portfolio, but I'm saying eventually your portfolio of products should increase. Your market should increase, your end users should increase. Okay, and that is an essential part of scalability. Now let us talk about the social mission, since we're talking about social enterprises. So most companies who are social enterprises, they create value for society or some part of the society. We may not create value for everyone. It is very, very difficult creating value for the entire society. So we should focus on at least some part of the society, keeping in mind that you are not harming the rest of the society. Right? That is very important. So you may be creating value for a particular part of the society to start with, but keep in mind you're not harming, creating harm to other people in the society. So through your products, through your services, and you're solving certain problems or certain unmet needs of the society you're addressing. But then in social enterprises, what is of importance is what is the impact, the social or environment or any other kinds of impacts which you can enlist. So what are the positive social and environmental impacts that your product or service is generating? Are you serving the marginalized, the underserved sections of the society? So typically those who have limited ability to pay for your products and the services, or those who have limited access, or they generally represent an unattractive commercial market segment. So not many products are available which are catering to that particular segment of the society, because it's an unattractive commercial market. Commercially, it may not be very attractive. And then enhancement in quality of life. That is one more social mission which you can try to see incorporate when you're designing your social enterprise. So productivity, upward mobility of the economically weaker sections. So these are some of the parameters which we can keep in mind when we're talking about quality of life. In terms of leveraging goodwill, we have spoken about it, but just a slide which talks about the different kinds of goodwills which as a social enterprise you can leverage. So what are those different types of goodwills? One I have already told you is the government. They have several grants which are specifically, so government is one what you can say key resource which can help you to raise money for your social enterprise. So it could be in terms of grants. Now there are also seed investments which are available from through the government agencies. So those could be one way of raising resources in terms of goodwill. Then charitable organization. So again, that could be in terms of grants, donations, or different ways in which charitable organizations can help a social enterprise. CSR, as I've already told you, there are a lot of CSR initiatives now, and during COVID times, we have almost now 25 to 30 products from our grantees, from our startups here at Venture Center, who have COVID related products, and that all became possible mainly due to this government grants, charitable organization grants and donations, and very importantly the CSR grants. So several such grant calls came up in the last 2 years during COVID times, during the difficult times, and we were very fortunate, and our startups also pivoted or already had products which were relevant for COVID related applications. So we have almost 25 to 30 products from our startups right now in the market or in the process of getting developed from deployment point of view. Then employees, as I've already told you, is another way which also come as resources, because without skilled employees, no enterprise can survive. It could be a commercial enterprise or a social enterprise. You have to have good employees, good skilled employees, who can support your venture. So in this case, the self-motivation, the sincerity, the proactiveness, money is not the single most driver, that kind of attitude. Such employees also can be leveraged under the goodwill resource raising kind of aspect. So employees, customers where they can place orders, give advance payments because it is a socially relevant good. Then development tenders could be there, contracts could be there. They could prefer you over the other enterprises because it's for a social good, right? So these are the customer related goodwill. Suppliers, as I've told you, discounts. Then credit period, the limits could be higher limits for credit. Small quantity supplies also can be given by the suppliers. From investor perspective, basically their willingness to invest, because as a social enterprise, we know, or rather the investor also knows, the returns could be less, so lower rate on interest. Okay, the ROIs could be less. There could be higher risks also because it is a science tech based product. As it is, there's a higher risk, and because it's a socially impactful product, there could be a risk because the rate of investment is not more, and also the break-even points could be longer. So yesterday, Dr. Smita must have shown you a chart of the break-even point, how quickly you can become positive in your workflows. Better is your survival. But for social enterprises, and that to a science tech based social enterprise, the break-even points could be even longer. And then social enterprise, as a social enterprise, you will need to appeal to various stakeholders by projecting the potential impact. The impact may not be visible immediately. Some enterprises may be so that the impact is at least visible immediately or in the near future, but at some places the impact could be long term. So it is how you as an entrepreneur, as a social entrepreneur, can project the potential impact to your stakeholders, and then communicating impact and results of the activities undertaken. So reporting is a very important part. I have a separate slide on that, why reporting is very important, particularly in social enterprises. Yeah, so this is the chart I was talking about. This depth of the hole could be much more deeper also, and probably longer also in terms of from time perspective, in terms of social enterprises. So in any social enterprise, the investors look at the business story. The business story has to be there. It cannot be charity. It's not one-way kind of traffic. It has to earn money so that it becomes sustainable. So the business story has to come first. But then there could be investors who are interested in certain neglected sectors, right? So some say some diseases which generally do not get support, some of the investors may be willing to put money into that, and they are ready to take that go that extra mile also to see success from such enterprises. Willingness to take greater risk and accept greater uncertainty, that is also there. Lower rate of interest, that is there. Higher time to cash positive flow, and lower total addressable market. TAM is total addressable markets. So we know that the vulnerable populations could be very, very focused, like a small section of the entire society could be vulnerable. So TAM could be less, and even the money which is available from this market will be less. So that goes as part of the social enterprise. But several of the impact investors are aware about these aspects, and they are very much influenced, or they are very much excited by the social impact that your enterprise is going to create. So they may become willing to invest in such enterprises. Some more add-ons. Inclusivity, as I said, it's not very, very key, but it would be good to have kind of thing. So where empowering and enabling all to participate in the manufacturing enterprise. So it may not be possible always, but we can see if we can create that kind of ecosystem. So the know-how, funds, expertise, facilities, you can give access to this ecosystem and give access to the markets by keeping inclusivity in mind. So there are several models, open frameworks which are available to facilitate inclusiveness. Also the attitude that sharing of today and tomorrow, where you are delivering the benefits of manufacturing to all, both the current and the future generations. So if you have seen the article by Professor Prahlad and Dr. Mashelkar in the Harvard Business Review, it is on Gandhian innovations. It's a lovely article, and encouraging all of you to go through it. The concept of inclusiveness concept of Gandhian innovation, where there is participation, there is sharing, and also reducing exclusion is key there. Those concepts are clearly mentioned. So products aimed at the masses for all, which are not prescriptive but which are empowering, and overall many participants are the beneficiaries, could fall in this category of inclusiveness. When you are thinking of reducing exclusion, basically you're keeping doors and windows open long enough so that other technology areas can also be explored and developed, so that the entry barrier to the market gets reduced. This was what I was talking about, impact reporting. So as a social enterprise, whenever you get impact grants or impact investments, reporting is very, very critical, the financial reporting. So in addition to financial reporting, what kind of impact your product or service has created. So the reporting structure broadly should include what are the activities that have been done, what are the outputs, what are the impact of those outputs, and what are the long-term outcomes, okay, and how it is aligned with the organizational goals and the market. So this is how the impact reporting structure for your report should have, and you have to generate this data, these matrices to measure the impact. They could be done through interviews, feedback, case studies. There are different methodologies for doing this impact reporting. So, but remember, the reporting is very, very important, particularly when you are talking about social enterprises. So this is a key aspect. So this basically ensures that you get the next round of funding also, because you are good in this reporting part. Your due diligence is very, very good. So if there are any questions, we can take at this point, because now I'm going to move into specific examples from the venture center ecosystem. Dr. Gandhi, are there any questions?
Not yet seen, madam. So I think we can continue and then let's see.
Sure. Just as a quick check, I have another half an hour.
Yes.
All right. So let me now share some of our success stories. I've already spoken about Nobel Exchange. So this is where, if you can see my mouse, I'm hovering it over the Nobel Exchange panel. This is their setup in Talegaon, and this is where the waste is getting processed. And they have this ceiling. So of course, this is a dated photo, and now they have a bigger facility in terms of the methane gas sealing capacity. So where they put that into cylinders, and then it is sold to the different industries. So do visit Nobel Exchange anytime you have the possibility of going to Talegaon. Also, another example from the energy and environment sector is Gram Urja. So they are into this microgrid development, and they have set up, if I'm not wrong, at least 40 to 50 installations now as of date in different states of India, and even there too at different remote locations. So basically the microgrids which they set up in these rural areas, they are able to channelize the power supply from different kinds of sources and provide it to the rural population. Of course, it's a sustainable model that they have given. The village pays for it, and some part of it they manage to get done through charities and through CSR also. So several such successful installations across India, which our startup Gram Urja is doing, and they are going a big way into it. There's one more example from the agriculture domain. So there's a startup called Bioprime Agri Solutions. So this is a woman-led startup. Dr. Renuka Diwan is the entrepreneur here. She did her PhD from Pune University from the botany department, and then she had this little idea in her mind to commercialize it as a product. So she had worked in the developing a novel plant breeding technology, and now her startup has standardized several of such products which are actually which have shown successful trials in the farmers she started with Maharashtra farmers, and now she has moved on to the neighboring states also, and I think she has won success in the northeastern state also. So she has developed this novel plant breeding technology, taking it ahead from her PhD work, and as a startup now she has a very good team in place. She started as a single person, and then she found a complementary co-founder. That is very important, to get a very good partner in your business who brings in complementary skill sets. And then she has now built this entire team who are helping her to take this solution to the farmers, and actually they are buying these products also and implementing it in their farms. So these are three different examples from the sector other than healthcare, and almost 50 to 60% of our startups are in the healthcare sector, not because we are biased towards it, but because a lot of funding is geared towards healthcare and those kind of applications. So some more examples from the healthcare sector now. So Periwinkle Technologies is a social startup, and they are in the bio IT and the software space. So what Periwinkle Technologies does is, they are the software people basically. Kaustubh and Veena Naik, they have experience in the IT industry. They have had very well paying jobs in fact, but after a while working doing their jobs, they thought that they have to have something of their own, and they had this social impact also in mind. So we do several in fact events where our startups meet up with different kinds of people, and one such event was on focused around genetic disorders, which are neglected disorders. So during this event, Veena and Kaustubh happened to meet Dr. Lohade, who is a hemophilia specialist. So if you are aware, hemophilia, it's a bleeding disorder, and it's a very, very expensive disorder to treat. So they happened to meet Dr. Lohade, and one of the problems that Dr. Lohade shared in his session during that talk was that there is no data available, and which can be collected in a very easy manner from the patients about how to follow up, what kind of treatment, what kind of bleeding episodes they are undergoing, how they are handling it, and if any treatment was given, what was it and what was the effect of it. So this entire thing about the communication between the hemophilia patients, which are located all across, even in remote areas, so how to reach out to them, and they are so very less in numbers. So it's very, very difficult to build a solution to reach out to these people in remote areas where they are very difficult to reach out, and some of them cannot even afford the treatment also. So then Veena came up with the idea that can we develop a mobile app which is very, very simple. It can work on any of the simplest model of Android mobiles, and nowadays Android mobiles are available with several of the low income population also. So an app which can connect the hemophilia community with the hemophilia caregivers. So physiotherapy is also an important part, by the way, of the treatment. So even the physiotherapist can be brought on this same mobile platform, and they got a Sparsh funding. I'm going to talk about that funding also in a while. We mentored them for this funding, and this funding is for developing socially relevant products. So this was the product that Periwinkle developed, and now of course they have moved on from building this simple app to also difficult diseases like cervical cancer, where the numbers are quite a bit. So they are developing screening devices now for cervical cancers, and also putting an IT solution as a back-end system for this cervical cancer screening. So Periwinkle is one of our successful social enterprises. Another social enterprise, and a very important one, first in India kind of example, is this defibrillator company, which is Jeevtronics. So again, Aniruddha and Ashish were two automobile engineers working in Ford Enterprises. So they were working in an automobile company in the US. But both, of course, they were friends to start with. Both had this idea of doing some socially relevant work. So they left their high-paying jobs, came back to India. They happened to meet us, and then they had this idea of developing a defibrillator. So as you know, this defibrillator is a device by which you can save a patient, give a shock to the patient who has undergone a heart attack, revive the patient and shift the patient to the tertiary care facility. So this device, they developed it. So defibrillators do exist, but they need to be charged. And in rural areas with the power crunch and all that, imagine a defibrillator being charged at the time when a patient needs to be revived. So this is very rare situation that the defibrillator is charged and ready to use when it actually is needed. So they developed this device which can be charged by simple hand cranking for 10 to 15 seconds, and this charged defibrillator can help you to save a patient in a remote facility and move them to the tertiary care center. So now these defibrillators have undergone a lot of clinical trials, and they are now in the deployment stage in the primary healthcare centers, in the ambulances, where they are of key importance. Even in airports where you believe that they would be charged, even there they have seen that there's a problem of charging, where regular charging does not take place in a facility as good as an airport. So this is another social enterprise. Nayam Innovations, they are working in this spectacle domain, where they are trying to give spectacle-free vision to cataract patients. So this is a social enterprise again, and they are working with Aurolabs. I mentioned it's a social enterprise. So Aurolabs is also supporting them to develop some of their technologies, and they are working with this hospital in Madurai also to deploy their solutions. We have mentored them for raising different funds, and now they have also raised the next level of investments. Investors are on board of Nayam Innovations. So he's a scientist from IIT Mumbai, very highly qualified, was having a very well-paying job after his graduation, but then he left that, and he has moved on to his social enterprise. Dr. Anya Nisar is a scientist in National Chemical Laboratory. So this is an example of a spin out from an academic institute like NCL, National Chemical Laboratory. So Anya is developing the silk fibroin based materials for different applications in healthcare domain. So she's developing this osteoconducting bone grafts. They are also developing the skin grafts for burn patients. So several applications now Anya has, and as a scientist, she has put together a very good team. She has raised several rounds of funding, and also now has got seed investments, seed investors on her portfolio. Orthocrafts is one more example of a NCL startup. So there are several such. We have 10 startups out of NCL now, where scientists are on board of these startups as board members, as the key scientists leading their enterprise. So Orthocrafts focuses on developing bioabsorbable implants for orthopedic applications. So this is another healthcare implant, socially relevant work, social impact work, and they have also raised now a lot of grants and seed funds. So overall, as a summary, Venture Center has several startups who are doing work which are relevant to the national missions. So different missions: the Digital India, Accessible India, Smart Villages, Skilling India, Startup India, Swachh Bharat. So you name it, any social mission, and Venture Center startups have worked for developing products to support those missions. In addition to that, several of the sustainable development goals are being supported by the startup clusters at Venture Center via their products and services. Moving on into the funding part, because talking all these doesn't make sense if we do not talk about what are the funds involved. I'm not going to talk about the different funds because I'm sure Dr. Smita has already handled most of this or talked about most of these funds. I'm going to talk only about the socially relevant funds which are available. So let me start with talking about our social innovations vertical at Venture Center. This is the website address, venturecenter.co.in/social innovations. So if you go to this website, then this is the first page. We are of course supported by BIRAC, CSR, and through different funding programs. This is one of the flagship programs under the social innovations vertical, which is the social innovations immersion program. This program, it is supported by BIRAC, and Venture Center has been the partner for this program since the inception of the SPARSH scheme. So this scheme started way back in 2014, and there have been several calls, and Venture Center has been partner for all the calls. We are right now in the 5th call. The call for applications is open, and I'm going to talk a little bit about in detail since the call is currently open. So we have had several calls under the SIIP, but there is also one more funding program, which is SPARSH. I did mention about it that Periwinkle got this SPARSH grant. This grant is of 50 lakhs rupees, and this grant is particularly for developing socially affordable and relevant products for societal health. So this is a 50 lakhs grant. The call is generally a theme-based call. So some calls have already happened. We are expecting a call anytime now to come for application for this 50 lakhs grant. But this is a proof of concept call. Before that, we should have something which helps them to reach that proof of concept stage, and that is what is the SPARSH fellowship. So this fellowship, it intends to create a pool of social innovators broadly in the biotech, biomed and related disciplines, such innovators who can identify specific needs and gaps in the critical sectors. So always the SIP call is for a particular theme, and those are the critical sectors under which the needs have to be identified. Funding support is provided for developing the market-based solutions. So this funding support is for 5 lakh rupees, and such solutions which have a potential to bring these breakthrough technologies and solutions and offer it to the vulnerable population. So that is what is the SIP about. The first cohort was around maternal and child health. So a very, very important topic and a very well worked on topic also. We had these two innovators who developed two very good and relevant technologies. The first innovation was on diagnosis of neonatal sepsis. So we have this important aspect which is called as immersions, where the fellows, I go along with the fellows to the actual clinics, to the hospitals, not only in the urban and semi-urban areas, but into the remotest of areas also. So we went as far as Meghat also, which is the key hub for a lot of very well known for maternal and child deaths. Okay, so there one of the important reasons why there were a lot of deaths amongst neonates, as well as the other solution was on the other girl developed a solution for mothers who are delivering. Okay, so we've observed that there were several deaths and lot of preventable deaths in that remote area of Meghat, where babies were dying and mothers were dying during deliveries. So what is the key factor there? Of course, malnutrition, yes, but there are several solutions already being developed for handling and tackling this malnutrition. Even at the government level, a lot of funding is available. Another important point which came to our observation was babies are getting diagnosed very late with neonatal sepsis. So by the time the baby reaches the tertiary care facility, say in an area like, so Dharani is the nearest PHC there. There are just two PHCs in that area, one at Harisal and one at Dharani. From Dharani, if the patient has to go to a tertiary care facility, which is almost, if I'm not wrong, 50 kilometers away, but the road is so windy and there are lots of ghats in that area. Some of you may be aware about the difficulties of that area. So then to reach places like Amravati or it's close to the Madhya Pradesh border. So even if to reach Indore, which is also a nearby city, by the time the baby reaches there, nothing much can be done and the neonate dies. So is there anything which the person or the ANM at the PHC level or even at the community level, at the sub-center level, can use to diagnose the baby in time that yes, this baby is developing sepsis, and transfer the baby or shift the baby to the tertiary care facility at the earliest instance? The babies currently are getting transferred because after they start developing some kind of symptoms, this device is going to diagnose the baby as early as, even before the symptoms start coming, as early as the initial septic growth starts. So that is what is the idea. She is of course still developing it, and she has got the next level funding from the Biotech Ignition grant, and also raised the seed investment now, where even Venture Center has invested in one of her in a part of this idea. So Amrita is that entrepreneur. So it's a women-led startup, and Spot Sense Healthcare Technologies is her startup. The other girl Apurva, she has developed a tool set for reducing postpartum hemorrhage, which is another key reason for maternal deaths. So by the time the mother is transferred to the tertiary care facility, the delivery happens and the mother starts bleeding for several reasons. The bleeding is so much that she dies on the way. So several such instances came to their notice, and now she's putting together a set of tools to reduce or minimize this postpartum hemorrhage and transfer the lady in safely to the tertiary care facility. So even this product is in the process of getting developed, and Apurva is developing it through her startup. The next call was on sanitation and waste to value, and we had 4 fellows here. All 4 of them, after their social innovation fellowship, they could raise the next level of funding either through Biotech Ignition grant, through different kinds of CSRs, through different kinds of fellowships. Some of the names Smita must have referred to yesterday, so I'm not going to talk about those grants. But as part of social innovations immersion program, in their immersions, they found out that what are the exact problems at the community level, at the ground level, and then have started developing these technologies. So Aishwarya has her own startup now called Mandala Bio Innovations, and she's developing a platform to measure and monitor disinfection levels of surfaces in public settings like operation theaters, or even as simple as the public toilets or that. So after the disinfection is done, her device will measure and tell the administrator there to whether the disinfection has happened to the optimum level or not, because a lot of infections get transferred from the surfaces in public settings. So that was the observation, and she's developing the platform to measure and monitor that. The second entrepreneur is Pramod on the right side, and he's trying to develop a farm level dryer for processing agricultural produces to reduce the wastage. Because all of you are aware, tomato is the key example which comes up every year, and tons of tomatoes have to be just thrown away on the roads because there are no takers for it. So when such a situation happens, if this farm level dryer is in place, then the farmers as an additional income can start drying this produces. So he started with tomatoes and onions, and he's now moved on into mushrooms also and other farm produces, where this farm level dryer is helping the farmers to minimize their wastage and also give them some additional income by selling those dried products. So he's tying up with several hotels also, where and the big chains where such producers are required in the dried form. So Pramod is also at his early stage yet, and not yet completely successful in the market. He's on the way. The third startup is Shubham, and Shubham through his product Crast. So as the name suggests, Crast is crop waste. So valuable products from crop waste, and what Shubham is developing is different kinds of materials. So it could be construction materials for furniture and packaging industry from crop waste. So the observation was he's from the northern parts of Madhya Pradesh, which is the border districts of Punjab and Haryana also. And there, as the problem always comes in winter season, the farms are burned and the entire area gets flooded with the smog, because fog is also there and the smoke is also there, and hence a lot of respiratory diseases are rampant during particularly that span of the winter months. So Shubham, because he was also located in those regions, he's trying to develop this farm level crop residue derived straw panel board, which can be used for different applications. And lastly, we have Munish, who is developing a value-added whey protein from untreated dairy waste. So, a lot of the water which comes out from the dairies, it could be the washed water or just the post-treatment water which comes out, has valuable whey protein, which is very important for the healthcare industry, the nutrition industry, the pharma industry. So Monish is trying to extract that whey protein from the dairy waste water. So it will be a useful solution not only for the dairy industry, because they have to fulfill the environmental safety norms. But in addition to that, if the entrepreneur is able to get that whey protein, extract that whey protein, the revenue from that is quite valuable. So the products from that are quite valuable in the different industries like medical industry or pharma or other nutrition and healthcare industry. So that was Monish. The third call was around elderly, and this is what I also referred to earlier. So there are calls which are specifically for vulnerable populations, developing solutions for the vulnerable population, and we have 3 startups out of that. One of them also has got the design registration already given to her, and the other 2 recently Divyakshi, who is here on the left side, who is developing a foot ankle exosuit. She has also filed her patent, and she is going to use that exosuit for preventing falls and enhancing mobility, which is a key problem amongst elderly. Yashoda is building a solution to assistive device for safe transfer for bed-bound elderly patients. That is another problem amongst elderly, where a lot of elderly are staying just as either they are single, they are just staying alone or with their spouses, and there could be 1 or 2 helping hands, because in most of the situations the younger generation has moved out, either staying in separate houses or staying abroad. So such bed-bound elderly patients, there's a major problem in shifting them for as simple thing as going to the toilet. So how to facilitate that? That is the solution that Yashoda is building. And Mangesh is building a solution for tackling the vitamin B12 deficiency, which is a major problem again, not only in elderly, but also in the pediatric and maternal population. So his solution now, he has also expanded beyond the elderly population. So this is what I was saying, that customizing it to different population segments as a part of scalability. So Mangesh has also got the CSR grants for it, and he's also currently on another fellowship beyond the social innovation fellowship. Currently, the fellows who are working are in the waste to value theme, and we have 3 fellows under it. One of them, we are happy to share, has already got the BIG grant, so he has moved ahead even before this fellowship is still continuing. So another 6 months, he would be moving on to his next grant, that is the Biotic Ignition grant, and he's developing a waste-based alternative for replacing thermocol packaging. So that is Laksh, and he's developing this solution. He's from remote area in Jammu, and fortunately he has a very good training from BITS Pilani Hyderabad campus. So technically skilled person and developing a socially relevant product. Even the other 2 people are engineers. Akash is a biotech engineer, and he's developing a consortium of microbes to treat the effluent waste from different industries, initially targeting the chemicals and pesticide manufacturing industry. And Tushar is developing a cashew apple juice extraction machine. What he observed was that a lot of wastage is there when the cashew apple juice is extracted. So one valuable product which already goes out is the cashews, and then another valuable product is the cashew apple juice, which also has a lot of nutrition values. But after this juice is extracted, the waste is just lying there, and a lot of things can be developed out of it. Also, there is a possibility of minimizing this waste, and Tushar is developing a machine which is going to help the cashew apple farmers to extract the juice in the most efficient way and reduce the wastage. The 5th call is now currently open, which is around agriculture technologies, agri-tech. So that is the 5th call. The last date is 30th of September, and I think there is little bit of time. There is time, little bit, right? If I can talk about this call.
Yes, please, madam.
Yeah. So this call has already opened on 15th of August, and the deadline is 30th of September. This is the website which is there for applying for this call. Let me talk a little bit about this call because this call is currently open. If you go to this website, this is the page which should open. There's a link to apply here directly. If you want to know more details about it, you have to click on this link, the Social Innovation Tech Fellowship link, which is on the Agri-Tech tab. If you click on this link, if you click on this apply button, let me talk about the form first, then I'll talk about the fellowship. If you click on the apply button, this is the BIRAC page which will open. First, you have to register as an applicant. So this basically this fellowship is for an individual. It is not for a startup. So that might mind well. So any of your students, the eligibility is graduation or post-graduation in science, engineering and medicine. So when we say science, of course, pharma comes under it. So any of your final year students who are about to complete their either B Pharm, M Pharm or even their PhDs who wish to develop solutions from agricultural in the theme of agriculture. So any plant-based molecules which they want to extract and develop a product out of it. So such kind of solutions, which are, of course, I'm giving an example which is specific to the pharma domain here. There are several such examples. Other illustrative themes also I'm going to talk about a little bit in detail. So all those people are eligible. The age limit is 35. So that is also a very hard kind of limit which is given by BIRAC as the funding agency. They have to register here as a applicant. Simple things like name, first name, birth date are asked for the registration. Your discipline or the course which you have pursued or you are pursuing. So it could be B Pharm, M Pharm, MSc, BSc, MTech, PhD, whatever. What was the start date? What was the end date? What is the end date of that program? If you have already completed it, your email address, your postal address for communication. And then there's a register button. You have to fill in all these details and then you register. You should get an email where you are requested to set your password. So this email comes from birac.dbt@nic.in. So after registration, if you do not see this email, check your spam for this particular address. We have seen that a lot of applicants are facing this problem. This address is tending to go into your spam box. So please check your spam for the address birac.dbt@nic.in and click on the website, the link given where you can set your password. Then you log into the website again using your username and password. After you log in, the list of applications comes up where you have to go on this Social Innovation Program for Products Affordable and Relevant to Societal Health, which is SPARSH. SIP is located under this SPARSH tag. Okay, so you have to click here. After clicking here, this page will open and you will see click here to submit new proposal. Okay, so because you are now submitting a new application for the SIP fellowship, you have to click on this tab where you can submit your new proposal. As soon as you click on this page will open where it says BIRAC invites application for social innovators, SPARSH fellows for social innovation immersion. The call duration is given, so you have to click on this link, submit your new proposal here. When you click on this, the basic information page opens. You have to give your first name, last name, the mobile email address, mobile number, qualification, if you are affiliated to any institute, the course pursued, the same information which you have given earlier also has to be filled in here. And very importantly, your work experience. Particularly mention that which is relevant for the agri-tech domain, because now your application is going to be evaluated for the agri-tech theme, since that is the theme you are applying for. So mention your work experience accordingly. After that is you have to upload your CV. Here also there is of course a size limit to it and it has to be in PDF. Upload your CV focusing again on the agri related theme. Let me alert you, there are several themes currently which are open. At Venture Center, the theme is Agri-Tech. So hence I'm talking about Agri-Tech much more in detail. But if you are interested in any of the other themes, waste to value, combating environmental pollution, maternal and child health, aging and health, food and nutrition, and Agri-Tech. So any of the other themes, there are other partners outside of Pune. You are free to choose that. As you choose the theme, the Sparsh Center list will open up. So for Venture Center, click on Agri-Tech. Once you click on Agri-Tech, you have to select for Venture Center, which is seen as Entrepreneurship Development Center. Okay, so the theme is Agri-Tech. The center is Entrepreneurship Development Center. If you select some other theme, some other center will come. Venture Center will not be listed there. Okay. So if you wish to be affiliated to Venture Center, you have to select Agri-Tech theme because that is the theme currently we have been allocated. Now, once you go select Agri-Tech and Entrepreneurship Development Center, then technical information section also opens up. Why are you interested in this fellowship? What social problem you want to address? So they do not want too many details, but yes, little bit thought has to be given to why you want to be part of the social innovation immersion program, right? So that has to be given. If you want to refer to some of your prior experience, that how you got interested in social innovations, you are free to do that. Say you have volunteered for some social activity, you have volunteered with some NGO. Yes, that adds to your credibility. Do mention that. Your plans to bring changes in the community. So what social problem you want to address and what is your plan to bring changes in the community also is asked. Describe your prior experience with startup communities. So here is where you can describe if you have any voluntary experience or any startup experience that if you have already worked in it. It could be in a paid basis. It could be on a voluntary basis also. They also ask you whether if you have been funded by BIRAC earlier, because there are some other programs which fund at the student level also. So if you have been part of any of such BIRAC programs, do mention that. Have you applied for SIIP fellowship earlier? There could be some people who have applied for it. Do mention that. There's no need to hide anything. It is not taken as a negative point against you that you had applied and you were not successful. It doesn't matter. You have to, because anyway that data will be there with them back end, right? So do mention if you have applied. If you have not applied, well and good. Are you incubated anywhere else? So since people, they expect that in addition to students, even people who have passed on and may have started working on their enterprise in a small way, they could be incubated somewhere. So you're free to mention if you are incubated anywhere. Do you have experience of working with a startup? Are you willing to start a startup after SIP? If you had said yes to have you funded for BIRAC earlier, they ask for details, and yes, the rest of the sections remain the same. So after filling up all these questions, then you can click on the submit button. So that is the end of the form, and as you can see, it's a very, very simple form. Except for few questions you may need a little bit thinking about. Why are you interested in this social innovation fellowship? What social problem you want to address, and what are your plans to bring changes in the community? These three questions are very important because this will give the committee an idea about about the passion, your passion for social enterprise. So are you genuinely interested, or are you looking at this fellowship as a stopgap option till you find something else? Okay. So if you are in that mode, do not apply for this fellowship, because this is a full-time fellowship, a dedicated one, 18 months, concentrated effort, and you can decide whether, like, at the end of the fellowship, it may so happen that you realize you're not interested in entrepreneurship. But then it's a waste of your 18 months. So do take a balanced call for applying for this fellowship. If you are interested, then only apply. Do not apply as a stopgap kind of arrangement. So once you submit the form, it will go to the funding agency, which is BIRAC. Although 30th September is the last date, which I have mentioned here also, do not wait for 30th September. I will encourage each and every one of you who wants to apply to finish submitting the application before at least 2 days before the deadline. It is always seen that BIRAC website gets crashed on the last day because several people wake up last moment. So there is too much of traffic and the website crashes. If you miss the deadline, nothing can be done. BIRAC does not encourage or entertain any late applications. So please do not wait till the last moment. Submit at least 2 days in advance. So these are my coordinates, and feel free to reach out to me for any questions, queries, not only rep social entrepreneurship, social innovations, but broadly about this fellowship also. If you are interested, if your students want to reach out to me, my cell number is given here. So feel free to reach out to me. These are our social media handles. Do follow Venture Center on these handles and tag us. Our events and other announcements, funding related announcements are also shared on the social media handles in addition to our website. So that is all from my end, and I'm open for any questions.
Dr. Mugdha, it was such an incredible journey of this 1.5 hours. I mean, it was a super presentation. Just let me first take a few questions in the chat box.
Yeah.
So Vedika Datlani wants to ask you, how do I understand that my product will be categorized as a social enterprise? And can any individual go for this, as you spoke about profits with a social cause? I mean, without grants. She wants to ask.
Without grants.
Yeah.
So, meaning if there are no grants, then how to take it ahead just based on the profits? Is that the question?
I guess so.
Okay. So, let me start by addressing the first part of the question. And if the second part, if I need any help to get any clarification, maybe you can unmute the person and let them know. Sorry?
Please, madam, you go ahead. I was just...
Right. So the first part of the question was, how do you understand whether it's a social enterprise or not? Yes. So what I would advise you is, don't worry too much about whether I'm a social enterprise or not a social enterprise, because the simple reason being, there is no fixed definition. As I have already told you, it's quite fluid. It is slightly different than the in entrepreneurship, which any one of us follows. The basic line is that it has to be sustainable. You have to think about the business first. It's not so that if you are a social enterprise, you can go the charity route. Okay. No, you can't do that, because basically it's an enterprise. It is an entrepreneurship. It is a business. You have to become sustainable on your own also, like just based on the profits also. Other things, the goodwill, the grants and all those things anyway will be there. Okay, so like if you apply for it, those will come. But as a business, it has to be sustainable. You have to design it in such a way that your expenses get covered. You may not be making tons of or crores of rupees as profit, but just to manage your expenses, your inflows and outflows, I talked about that. So whatever are your inflows and whatever are your outflows, so basically what you earn and what you spend on your business have to match. Your expenses have to be less and your income has to be more. As simple. साधा गणित येते की you have to be cash positive eventually. Initially, I understand you will be cash negative. You will be pumping money in your enterprise, but then that negative part of the graph, how quickly you come out of it, that will decide how successful you are, how much sustainable you are. Right? Scalability comes later on, but at least at the minimum you have to be sustainable, where your business expenses, your regular daily expenses for the enterprise get covered. So don't worry too much about whether you are a social enterprise or you are just an enterprise. Okay. Of course, social enterprise, as I've already told you, if you are doing framework for some of the socially relevant themes. If you're working in, say, health, agriculture, broadly, several things fall under social enterprise. Let me tell you that also. If you're developing something for maternal and child health, if you're developing something for the vulnerable populations, for elderly, for disabled, yes, you are a social enterprise. So that's a very, very broad spectrum. Don't worry about the definitions so much. Just go ahead and see that your business is sustainable or not. You have to match your expenses and your income. Okay. So what the second part of the question was, how to make profits based on the revenue, or what was it?
Can any individual go for this, as you spoke about profits with a social cause without grants? I mean,
yeah. So
with own investment, basically, she means to say.
Yeah, so don't talk about investment right now, because investment comes quite late. No, except for the 3 Fs: your friends, families, and foods. Okay, I think Dr. Smita must have referred to this. The 3 Fs are the ones who will give you money at the initial level of your journey. The 3 Fs are your friends who think that हाँ अच्छा है, ये आदमी अच्छा कर रहा है, चलो कुछ पैसा देते थे. Family, yes, they will support you at least initially and give you some money if they are a good family. And fools, so like someone just believes that yes, this seems to be a good idea, might give. So it's like up to your luck, but don't depend on that. Other than that, since government grants are available, why not avail of it? Right? Profits, yes, you have to make profits, but just I would advise you, just don't go by the revenues that you're generating, because fortunately a lot of grants and money is available through the government grants, some which Smita madam must have talked about yesterday, and some which I spoke about today, like one grant, the Social Innovation Fellowship. Why don't you take that? It is 50,000 per month as a fellowship, 5 lakhs to develop your minimum viable product. Go for it. People are looking for good applications, and if your idea is really good, it may not be well developed right now, but if you have a good idea which is in that particular theme, you will be supported. Okay, so don't worry, don't go the profit route just by the profit route. Make profits, but don't depend on it. That is what I'm saying.
Okay, so I hope that has answered, Vedika, your question. And then one more from Priyanka is there any innovation scheme or fellowship where there is no age limit to do the application?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
at least age of 45 can people apply?
Yeah, no. So let me clarify. The Social Innovation Fellowship is the only program which has an age limit. Okay, with the age limit there is 35. Other than that, whatever schemes yesterday Smita madam must have spoke about, and you will of course find details on our website. There is this Entrepreneur in Residence program, there is this Prayas grant, there is this Biotech Ignition grant. There are several programs. So if you have any particular idea, feel free to write to me at this address, or even Smita madam must have shared her address with you yesterday. You can write to any one of us. We will direct you to the right program, depending on what your background is, what you wish to do, and in this case, what your age is. So age limit is there only for the Social Innovation Fellowship. So age is not the criteria otherwise.
Another question is how to register a startup for corporate environmental responsibility?
For CSR, right? So corporate social responsibility.
Corporate environmental is written by.
I'm not aware about CER, that is corporate environmental responsibility, but aware about CSR. So do they mean CSR only, or because I don't know. Like CER, I'm not aware.
I think it is CSR.
Okay, so for registering a startup, I don't think there's a special registration required. Every corporate has a CSR cell or a CSR wing. So they have a team in place. You need to approach that team and pitch your idea. If they are willing to put their CSR corpus in that, then that is how it gets directed to. A simpler way is now incubators like Venture Center are also eligible for CSR. right? So some of our CSR grants are for innovative ideas, broadly for science tech ideas, but yes, because it is social responsibility, we specifically give preference to socially relevant ideas. And if I'm not wrong, no, I think that call just closed on 10th of September. That was one CSR call. So if you can share details of today's attendees, then we could add them to our mailing list, where we will share the details of our upcoming calls, events, not only in our ecosystem, but otherwise also with the attendees. So whenever the next call comes, we can alert them to apply in time. A newsletter emailer comes every 15 days from our events desk, and that gets shared to the mailing list if you provide one, and they can be alerted to the CSR calls. So as such, no this special registration will be required. They can apply for these grant calls, for CSR calls, and if they are selected, they can get that funding.
Yes, definitely, Mugdha madam. I will share you the list of the participants, their mail IDs. You can pass on the different schemes, different grants which are available through the venture center to them.
Yeah.
I think that question, it was from Swagat Misra sir. Are you there, sir?
Yes, sir. Raised hand as well.
What does it correctly answer? It was social, corporate social responsibility.
In fact, sir, first of all, good morning, everyone, and welcome, ma'am, Mugdha ma'am. In fact, most
your voice is very low, sir.
Am I audible now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So, ma'am, we have a lot of provisions, whether it's Startup India or, even Make in Odisha or Startup Odisha. Okay, so when we look at the framework, especially under social innovation or social responsibility or social impact, we come across CSR, all right, and that is always present. But the kind of startup, I'm evolving with is more of a corporate environmental responsibility. So it is towards climate change mitigation. It could be by manufacturing units. It could be renewable energy installations on their sites and so on. So I was looking forward to understand how the corporate environmental responsibility drive, and accordingly the merit of applying for scholarship or seed funding, because we have to begin with a bootstrapping model that we are already doing with. However, there is not enough of, however, in abroad we have something like Climate KIC and other organizations.
Did you mention that your startup is working in environment and energy related sector?
It is, first of all, it is an education driven domain. So we want to educate these corporate sectors, not only to diversify funds for social capacity building, but also towards environmental preservation. And that is where, we do not find much of a networking, available under different heads, except for a few states like in Gujarat, or particularly, I think even in Maharashtra, we do have, when it comes to, soil, erosion to stop that, or reforestation techniques, or land use impact of climate change. But as such, not many corporates are, actively engaged towards promoting the environmental, management systems. So that is one thing.
Yeah. So one thing is like, from venture center perspective, your startup looks to be more into the awareness generation about different processes and all these things, right?
And also building certain prototypes. We have, certain prototypes in place. We are looking for, getting the proprietorship done. Right, but however, I'll stay in touch. Hopefully, we'll be, giving you.
Yeah, I think that will be better, because one such deadline which could have been relevant for you, and which was specifically in the energy environment sector. Actually, very few calls come in this particular sector. So please stay in touch, and you can keep an eye on our newsletter, particularly where such calls will keep on coming.
I will. Thank you. Thank you, also. Thank you, Dr. Santosh. Thank you, sir.
Gandhi
Thank
sir,
you.
hope we have time for more questions.
You can take one or two.
Okay. So there is a question from Priyanka. If fellowship period over, it means 18 months are done, then can student get another project from venture itself?
So the idea here is, so when Priyanka is saying student, she cannot do this. If she's talking about SIIP, the fellowship which I talked about, it has to be done full time. So this will be post your education. So if you are in the final year, apply for it. But we are assuming that you will complete your education by the time it is time to join the fellowship program. The fellowship is designed in such a way which will take you to the next funding level. So venture center, we ourselves will not give you any funds. We will mentor you to raise the next level of funding. So yesterday Smita madam must have spoke about the biotech ignition grant. So next, after SIIP, the next level of funding is either the 50 lakhs funding from Sparsh or BIG. These are the two options which immediately come up. Funds are from BIRAC. So Venture Center gives you mentoring and ensures that you will be able to raise the next level of fund through the SIP only. SIP also has a prototyping grant, right? So we will mentor you even from the technical aspect to make sure whatever product, whatever MVP, that is the minimum viable product you come up by the end of the 18 months, is good enough to give you the 50 lakhs funding. So that is what is the role of Venture Center.
Then one more thing is whether proof of concept, I mean, should it be very sophisticated model or just a prototype of simple kind?
So this is for SIP you are asking, or for BIG? Because let me tell both things. If they are asking for SIP, nothing is required, just the idea is required. So as it is, you can apply. Neither the prototype nor the proof of concept is required. For BIG, this is a proof of concept grant, but what we have seen in recent rounds is that people are developing little bit beyond POC. So it has become quite competitive, I would say, because a lot of people are now applying. They know about BIG, so they are doing quite a bit of work in it, where it's where preliminary data is a very important aspect of that BIG application. So it is like for SIP, not much will be required, but it's a fellowship program, and BIG is a grant for taking your startup ahead. Okay.
And the last question, Dr. Mugdha, is MOU with an industry compulsory?
For application, no, not required. But eventually it will be good. Like suppose you apply for BIG, you get it. It will be good to have an industry partner to show that yes, it's getting applied, right? Because that will be one of the deliverables for BIG. So these MOUs will be facilitated even for SIP, where we want them to start working actually with industry-oriented applications. We will facilitate these MOUs, but to start with, it is not required.
Okay. So there were many questions, and patiently you have answered them. Just let me read out few points in chat, and they were like an articulate framework on social entrepreneurship, very informative, amazing efforts, incredible efforts. So that answers like how the lecture has gone. And you have defined entrepreneurship with such nice quotes, and you have shared that book names like I Too Had a Dream by Verghese, Gandhian Innovation by Dr. Mashelkar. Then very lucid language, madam, you have explained about sustainability, scalability, and inclusiveness. You have shared those success stories of Amul, and then Nobel Exchange at Talegaon, so which is converting organic waste into valuable material. It should be surely our next industrial visit. You have discussed all those social entrepreneur development along with the key features. A company addressing needs of disabled and aged. So it has taught us the concept like your focus also should be on this social mission. You have shared such success stories of venture like Periwinkle, where web and mobile app is developed for hemophilia community. Then a defibrillator by Gtronics, that is hand crank generator. So it's like many of our young talent is now choosing not to go into the typical 9 to 5, but develop their talent into all these social calls as well. And you have detailed given the application process as well. And you have talked about all those projects of social innovation by different students. Spurs Fellowship as well as you have given detailed explanation. Overall, it was a very fantastic and very interesting session that we all had, and a great start for the day. So thank you from all of us. And Dr. Gandhi, if you'll have to speak something.
Yeah, very fantastic session. Further comments I could see in the chat regarding the today's session. Mugdha madam, someone has asked the mail ID. I think you have shared the mail IDs or the contact numbers of the Venture Center. So would you like to repeat it to the participants?
I will just put it in the chat here.
Yes, yeah. So that will be available to all those who are interested in this startup innovation and entrepreneurship area. Yes, mugdha@venturecenter.co.in and contact number 7410045652. Yes, thank you very much, Mugdha madam. Here we would like to present the certificate of appreciation on behalf of organizing team of AISSMS College of Pharmacy. Thank you for your sharing knowledge, your valuable insights, and motivating all the participants.
Okay, thank you so much for inviting me. Bye.
There is an announcement for the participants. We will be having a short break and we will rejoin again at 11:40 a.m. Thank you.